Dmitry. He's the founder and CEO of DropMe, and he will tell us about the value of influencers, micro influencers. Is it worth it? And he will help you to find your way around this interesting modern topic. And the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yaroslav. Um, Great to be here, and I assume that this is the final session of the day. So please bear with me, and thank you very much to the organizers for making this conference happen, especially taking into account the current circumstances that are taking place in my country. I'm Ukrainian as well, so Slava Ukraini for those who are in Ukraine or for those who are supporting Ukraine. Thank you very much for doing that. So let's kick off. I hope you can see the screen that I'm sharing right now. And let's kick off then. So picture this: you're running a gaming company, and you've discovered that influencer marketing is one of your key growth channels. However, launching a campaign with a single influencer takes weeks and countless amount of hours from your team because you have to find the right influencer, negotiate terms, make sure that these terms are completed as you agreed on, then making sure that the influencer gets paid. But the issue is that still, with all that effort and work that you've put in, the results and the outcome of that integration is still unknown because that's the way marketing, influencer marketing is currently operating. And this is precisely what has been happening in my company that I was running before. It was called Organization GG. We discovered that influencer marketing was the key growth channel for the company, but it was super difficult to scale it because working with large influencers required a lot of time and budget. And again, the outcome was not always clear. And we were looking for a solution and we couldn't find one. So basically, I can trustfully say that influencer marketing as a model right now is broken because it's very difficult to scale this channel. And also there's lack of data that will allow you to actually estimate whether it's good or bad. But I have good news for you, and let's stick with it. So before we jump into the nuts and bolts of influencer marketing and ways how to engage influencers to promote your games, I want to share a couple of words about myself. So my name is Dima. I'm Ukrainian. Currently, I live in Los Angeles. I just moved here about 6 months ago, so I'm fairly new to this area. Before, I have over 10 years of experience working in tech and finance. Uh, let's say most recently in 2017, I was also running an esports organization, which then transitioned into the company that I mentioned, Organization GG, which heavily relied on influencer marketing and where we helped actually pro gamers to engage their community in interactive experiences live on Twitch. In simple words, the viewers of pro gamers would donate in order to have more chances to play together, either Counter-Strike Go, League of Legends, and that allowed pro gamers to make money and their supporters to play together with them. And we pivoted from that idea, and about a year ago, I started a company which is called Job.me, where we help gaming companies to engage micro influencers at scale and only pay for the performance of it. And basically, this idea came out of all the pains and learnings that we as a team had while running organization.gg, where we stumbled and had a lot of like pitfalls while operating and engaging influencers. So I have a lot of kind of knowledge and understanding of how painful the process can be. And we as a team and Drove.me, we tried to bring all that knowledge together and come up with a platform that streamlines that process. And yeah, let's then move on. So maybe just to give like a broader overview of what influencer marketing is as a sector, and just to highlight that it wasn't only my company benefiting from influencer marketing. This is actually a huge, not even a niche anymore. It's a huge market that's growing dramatically fast. So if you can see on the numbers here, in 2022, the influencer marketing was at around $16 billion, and it's projected to grow like to more than double by 2030 to more than $38 billion. This not only includes, of course, the gaming influencers. This is how much money is being spent on all influencers in various sectors all over the world. And if we take, for example, Twitch influencers, or like the budgets that are spent around gaming influencers. This is also huge number that is about to grow to over $2.8 billion by 2030. And what's also worth mentioning is that there's almost all the gaming companies who have either tried influencer marketing before or who plan on giving it a shot. And even the mobile gaming companies, which are super data focused and data driven in all their marketing decisions, with all those changes that are taking place, including the ATT policy, they're also tapping into the opportunity to work with influencers, not only by asking for them to create UGC content that they can use, but also through direct engagement and direct promotions of their mobile games. And for some businesses, influencer marketing is super efficient. So um, in the recent poll, there was this data saying that companies are able to generate $6.5 in sales for every dollar that they spent on influencer marketing. And this is kind of like an average figure. I'm sure some companies can do better than that, but a lot actually struggle to even get to those numbers. So this is also one of the reasons why we're tapping into this market, because we want this channel to be as effective as possible for a larger number of companies that operate on the market. So let's start with the basics. Who is an influencer? There's like no strict definition of who influencer is. Someone calls them creators, content creators. I prefer sticking with influencers, although I don't like that term that much. But it's just more common, and it's more understandable for the industry. So influencers or creators, I'll just stick with influencers. So an influencer is someone who has at least 1,000 followers on their social media accounts. And yes, most likely we have influencers on our session right now as well. Um, I mean, I can probably call myself an influencer as well, based on the definition that I outlined earlier. Um, but I'd say mm, I want to be a bit more specific, based on like on this presentation that I'm doing. We're going to be adding an extra element to the definition, meaning that an influencer is going to be someone who has at least 1,000 followers on social media account, but also a person who is willing to engage in paid promotion campaigns. So, a person who is willing to basically make money out of the audience that they've managed together by engaging in sponsorship collaborations, or ambassador relationships with other companies. So that's going to be the definition of an influencer, at least for the duration of this presentation. Um, again, just to give you like the scope and the breadth of this market. So there's over 50 million influencers globally, and this is according to Forbes. Um, and again, these are the influencers that are willing to engage with companies to help those companies grow and engaged in paid campaigns with them. So these 50 million influencers is a huge, that's a huge amount of people, and they have billions of people following them. And they vary a lot, not just by the size and by the influence that they have, but they also vary by niche, by the, so for example, they can be working specifically in fashion industry, or they can be promoting CPG products, or they may be focused on promoting games. Um, you also have like variations in terms of the social network that they use. You might have YouTubers, TikTokers, people who stream on Twitch or on Kick. So there's also a variety of various social networks that they specifically focus on. There's also a lot of influencers who do all of those social networks. They can be paid integrations where you specifically pay influencers to do specific actions. It could be ambassador agreements where you're not paying anything to influencers. They just like the product that you do and they organically promote your product or your game. This is usually like a bit harder to earn, but there's a lot of cases happening there as well. So there's just so many different parameters where you can kind of like gauge and separate influencers in various niches and sizes. So just to give you an example, of course, everyone knows about like Kardashians, Pokemans, ninjas. Um, these are like celebrity influencers. We call them, they also fall into the bucket of being an influencer. And for example, the XQC, the popular Twitch streamer, he recently signed an exclusivity contract with Kick to exclusively be streaming on the Kick platform. And there's rumors that he was paid something around 70 to 100 million dollars for that exclusivity, and he's gonna have to do that for the next 2 years. So you can imagine the prices for these like top influencers. They're like super high. Um, and of course Ninja, this was like been big news when Microsoft, the streaming platform that doesn't exist anymore, it was called Mixer. They also signed Ninja to stream exclusively on that platform. And at first there were rumors that he was paid hundreds of millions of dollars, but then it turned out, again, rumors, but 20 to 30 million, which is still not bad. So these are all like super well-known and popular influencers that would cost millions of dollars to do an integration with. And obviously, there's not a lot of companies who can afford that, like large CPGs or like streaming platforms or some casinos or betting companies. But I'd say, or AAA games. Um, but again, this is like a tiny um, segment of the market that actually can afford those kind of like influencers and the checks. But I have good news. So these large influencers, although they get garner a lot of attention around them, and it seems like a lot of people know them, but there's this huge long tail of smaller influencers, which are called micro or nano influencers, and there's the majority of them, and they are being dramatically overlooked by brands because it's again super difficult to find them, it's super difficult to reach out to them, and to get meaningful results, you have to engage a lot of them. Um, and this is basically where we as a company, we see a huge opportunity, and I'm gonna get into it a bit later. So these influencers, they also can be segmented. So earlier I mentioned about those like celebrity influencers with millions of followers, but these smaller influencers, they can be called like nano influencers or micro influencers, depending on on the number of followers that they have. And the good part is that these influencers are great in driving conversions. So whenever we talk about those like large and popular influencers, most of the time brands are using them to get the word out about their game because they know that there's going to be millions of people watching those like celebrity influencers. So it's fairly, I'd say it's not easy, but it's kind of fairly easy to get the attention of millions of people by just partnering with one influencer. Whereas with smaller influencers, you're not going to get as many like eyeballs or impressions, but they're much better at conversions. And I'm going to get there. So the reason why they're good at conversions is because they have super engaged audience. So most of the time, if we talk about an influencer who has 1,000 followers, 5,000 followers, they even might know the people from their community by name. This is how deep of the relationship they have with their community. And we've been mainly working with Twitch streamers where there's live engagement between an influencer creator with their community, and most of the times they would just engage by name, and the influencer would know, you know, some of the issues at all or what was happening last week with some of his like community members. So they have these like very intimate and unique and engaged relationship. Uh, and this translates into trust, meaning that if that nano or micro influencer recommends a product or a game, since there's so much trust within the community, this is translates into a much higher conversion rates. And by conversion rates, I mean installs of your application, someone purchasing your game, joining your Discord server. So whatever your goals are for the marketing campaign, like these are, I would be calling like conversions. And then these micro influencers, they're also usually very niche. So they're not going after the audience which has like broad interest. They usually focus on the things that interest them the most. And then their community is built around that interest of an influencer, whether it's a particular genre of games or whether it's a particular game, um, or whether it's, I don't know, fashion products, or they're like a huge fan of like running shoes. So usually they're super niche, and that makes it also good in terms of the conversions that the brands are able to get. Uh, of course, they're cost effective. As I mentioned, they're being overlooked by most of the brands. So their arguing power is much less. And usually, or I'd say sometimes, you can even be the first brand that reaches out to them and offers them to do a paid integration. So it gives you like huge leverage in terms of the pricing. But on the other hand, there's also some drawbacks to that. So since they're like smaller influencers, they might not have previous experience working with the brand or doing like any paid campaign, paid integration. And this can work both sides. It can be very good because they're going to be like super engaged and motivated and energized, and they're going to do an amazing job. On the other hand, since it's their first can be their first campaign, they just might not have enough experience and understanding of what exactly the brand needs. So you also might end up having a content or an integration that is not as relevant for you. So to mitigate that, you have to be like very articulate and transparent um, about the goals that the brand that you as a company have. Yes, I think I've covered. And yes, of course, in order to make this shift, or in order to reach your like broader marketing goals, you would probably need to have a bunch of those micro influencers or nano influencers promoting your company or your product or your game. Um, and this can also be painful. This is why Job.me exists. We're there to help you, but I'm also going to get there a bit later. So since our company is focused mainly on working with games, I'd say 99% of our clients are either like gaming publishers or indie game developers or mobile gaming companies, as well as agencies, marketing agencies, or products that are built around gaming. Like we think that Twitch and Twitch influencers or Twitch streamers are an essential part of any influencer marketing campaign because, as I mentioned, these exactly are the people who are niche focused. So most of the Twitch streamers, they are either passionate about games or they're only streaming about games. So if you look at the structure, there's there's just like Twitch is is mainly about gaming. Not everything, but mainly about gaming. So we usually focus on Twitch influencers whenever we run campaigns with the gaming companies that we work with. The good news is that most of the Twitch streamers, they also have social media accounts on other social media networks, including TikTok, including YouTube, including Instagram. So when you're working with a Twitch streamer, either through Job.me or by yourself, uh, you can ask them to create content for various social media networks. And just to give you like an understanding of how content is being created, like what the flow is for most of the influencers, is that first of all, they usually do a live stream on Twitch. So they would like play your game, for example, for an hour, for 5 hours. Usually during that live stream, there's going to be some highlights. So there's going to be, I don't know, some wins for them or something like scary happening in the game. So they could use like those pieces of content uh, and repackage it for other social media. So they can do like shorts on Instagram or YouTube. They can also repackage it and use that like short highlight video from their live stream and TikTok. And they're very good at doing that. This is what they've been doing most of the time. So whenever you're engaging Twitch influencers or Twitch streamers, most of the time you can actually get super cool content that will help to promote your game also on Twitch and on YouTube. So that's good news. But if we focus on Twitch streamers again, just to give you like the overview, there's over 7 million streamers or 7.5 million streamers in 2023, and that number has grown dramatically since 2015. And this is just gonna grow from there. And these 7 million streamers, they have hundreds of millions of viewers every month. So they have a fairly good reach. And these influencers, they stream over 44,000 games on Twitch. So 44,000 games are being streamed right now simultaneously, meaning that it may seem like there's a lot of like streamers who stream like Fortnite specifically or like Counter-Strike 2. But in reality, there's this long tail of streamers who are interested in like super niche games or indie games or new games. Some of the streamers that we work with on the platform, and we have over 2,800 influencers, um, we call them variety streamers, and they had over 350 games streamed in the last year, meaning not in the last year, but like since they started streaming, meaning that if they've been streaming for a year or two, they kind of like stream a new game every like other second or third day, which is crazy. But the good thing is the community that they're streaming those games for, they're expecting that, and most likely they're watching these like influencers to discover new games. So that's a good opportunity, like business opportunity, especially if you're launching a new game. And like there you go, like that's exactly the type of influencers that you would like to go after. Um, Yeah, and this I already mentioned. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. Out of those, like 7.5 million influencers, the majority of them are micro influencers. So if you look at the Twitch data, there's only going to be about 0.5% of Twitch partners, as that's an official program run by Twitch. These are the people who meet certain requirements set by Twitch in terms of like number of hours they streamed, the number of followers they have. So that's like a tiny bit. 0.5% are Twitch partners. Everyone else are could be like Twitch affiliate or just a Twitch streamer, meaning that there's a huge opportunity there. It's just very difficult to reach out to those people. But again, there are tools to do that, and Drop.me is one of those tools. So let's get down to business. What if you're interested and if you think that influencer marketing or engaging like micro influencers and influencers could be a good path for you, like how do you actually do that? Like where do you start from? And you know, what should you be expecting? Let's dive into that. So first of all, the process like takes well, we can split the whole process in like into three like main chunks. So first of all is I'd say the first step is to understand what your goals are. Like I mean marketing goals and business goals, and where does influencer marketing stand within your whole like strategy, marketing strategy? Are you allocating 100% of your marketing budget to influencers, or you're only allocating 5 or 10%? What other marketing channels are you using? How are they complementing each other? So you have to, based on the game, based on the platform that your game is being published on, you have to make those decisions on your own, whether it's, I mean, you'd probably have a totally different strategy if it's a um, mobile game or a PC Steam game. So you have to take into account your goals. Um, After that, like after you figured out like where does influencer marketing stand in your overall marketing strategy, it's very important to understand and to be honest about which influencers are the right influencers for you. So what I mean is that do you have any preferences in terms of the genres that like Twitch streamers, for example, have been, streaming their games on? And this is important because you want to engage influencers that are genuinely interested in your game. Meaning, if I don't know, if you have a MOBA game and you start outreaching like FPS influencers, most likely, even though some of them might respond and say, "Yeah, I'm willing, to be paid to promote your game." Well, the outcome of that promotion might not be as good because the community of an influencer is not interested in MOBA games. They've been watching that particular influencer because he's been an amazing Fortnite player and he knows like all the tricks and bits. So make sure to identify the right influencers based on the genre and also the size. Like how much money do you actually have? Are you able to afford this huge influencer, or you'd rather go like with a larger amount but of smaller influencers? After you engaged the conversation, after you started having the conversations, it's important to cultivate the partnership. So as I mentioned before earlier, there there can be like paid engagement, and there can also be ambassador engagement, where influencers just like your game and they want to support you if you're an indie developer, for example. Um, and it's important to have the platform which will allow you to build and nurture these relationships with the influencers that you're engaging. Like even pre-launch, this could be a good strategy to even like get feedback from some of the like vertical slices or demos that your game has, and engage them in building your game and in becoming those ambassadors. So usually like Discord is used as a platform to do that, to cultivate those authentic partnerships. And you can basically use Drope.me to find the influencers that like your game, that create amazing content about your game. And then we also have tools that will help you to nurture these relationships, but I'm going to get there a bit later. Yes, this may take a lot of time. So in order, you've probably been wondering, like, how do I actually like find those influencers? How do I like, where do I find them? So yes, there's kind of like two ways to approach this process. One, I'd say is a manual approach where you kind of like have to manually do everything. The other approach is kind of like an automated approach that saves you a lot of time. That's the second approach is by using dedicated platforms. Um, DropeMe is one of them. I'm sure you've heard about Keymailer. Sure, you've heard about Lurkit. These could be the platforms to use if you're going like after the kind of like automated flow. If you're going with a manual flow and you're not willing to use those platforms, you can, for example, use Twitch Tracker or Solignome to find the influencers who could be a good fit for your game. Because, for example, on Solignome, you can filter out influencers based on their, let's say, last 3 months activity, based on the games that they've been streaming, based on the genre that they prefer. You can also see like whether it's a big influencer or a small influencer, which language they're using for their live streams. So there's a lot of filters and parameters. So if you go to Solignome, you can input everything in, like the criteria of the influencers that you're looking for, and then press search, and Telegram will provide you a list of all the influencers, like Twitch streamers specifically, who fit the criteria that you initially set. And you're gonna have the list, but of course you're not gonna have any like contact information, uh, and it doesn't allow you to get in touch with those influencers. You're not gonna understand how much you need to pay them for these kind of integrations, but it still gives you a list of influencers. And you can already start building out, and you can. What I would recommend is just go and watch the live streams of those influencers, so you can have like a better grasp and feeling of what they do, how they promote games, what like how does their community respond, um, and if you're going with a manual process, like this is important. Like make sure to spend some time watching the live stream or um, the engagement of the influencer with their community before you actually involve in a paid campaign. This is very important to understand, like who you're actually working with, and this also requires some time, but it can save you a lot of time and money going forward. And so how do these like integrations can look? So there are multiple ways to engage influencers or streamers into promoting your game, and you can be as creative as you want on that, or you can have like strict guidelines for the influencers, or you can just give them as much freedom as they need to come up with their own way of promoting your game. I think I'd rather like be in the middle whenever we're working with influencers, because you don't want to limit them in their creativity, because this is like super important for them. And on the other hand, you want to still give them some guidelines in terms of like your expectations. Like when do you want them like to stream? Well, is there anything specific that you would like to be mentioned about your game? So it usually helps being it usually helps being more specific rather than not. So if you're like you don't know if that's too much or not, most likely that's not too much. So some of the examples of the integration, it could be as simple as like stream the game on Twitch for X amount of hours and tell about, the game. It can be also like shorter integration. So for example, a streamer can be playing their favorite game, let's say, I don't know, Dota 2 and somewhere in between the games, he will do like a quick shout out about your game saying, look guys, I've found this amazing like mobile game. This is crazy good. You should also try it, and then he'll just go back playing his game. Yeah, you can also add banners about your game. These tend not to be that great. Uh, like from our experience, these don't really lead to any great conversions. But again, maybe they will work for you. That's also an option. Feel free to test it out. Um, And of course, besides Twitch, there's also like TikTok and YouTube. So as I said, you can ask a streamer to stream your game on Twitch for, let's say, a couple of hours, and then ask him to like create content with highlights for TikTok and YouTube integrations as well. Um, and then these integrations, they can be like very short term or they can be like long. And the important thing to remember here is the shorter the integration is, the most likely the more expensive is going to be. And you probably don't want to be spending a lot of time and effort for an integration that will last, for example, for 2 hours. So again, if you're doing it manually, if you're doing like if you're using like automated tools like Job, that you don't even have to think about it because the whole flow is automated. But if you're decided on working manually and like reaching out to those influencers by yourself, like try to negotiate like longer term engagements, like with some certain trial period, because you might spend a lot of time and get this like hour of stream, and it's not gonna make a lot of difference for your game, but you're spending as much time on that integration as if you would have had like an integration for, let's say, 20 hours or for the whole month. And also, it's more beneficial for influencers because they may they may at the end of the day, like they may charge you less for a longer integration. So just to give you like a perspective in terms of the pricing, so that's kind of like an average pricing for the English speaking like English speaking Twitch streamers. So it can vary from like, let's say, $1 to $3 per concurrent viewer per hour. That's basically how much most of the, say, agencies and streamers would charge you for like a very short hourly integration. But if you start speaking like with larger influencers, these numbers can go dramatically higher, even for 1 hour of integration. And this kind of like translates into how much you're actually willing to pay for that hour of stream that you're getting. Like with micro influencers, that could be like $30 per hour. With macro influencers, it can like skyrocket to tens of thousands of dollars per hour. And then it's you kind of have you kind of like have this trade-off. Like if you have, let's say, $1,000 uh, of budget per hour to spend, are you willing to go and put those money into like one influencer, or are you actually willing to engage like 50 influencers who'd be charging like $20 per hour? Um, Again, this comes down to your goals. If you're going like after the eyeballs, probably it makes sense to go with the larger influencers. But again, make sure that everything is set, like all the requirements are there, because you're basically putting all your eggs in one basket. If something goes wrong, again, all of the audience of this particular influencers is going to see that, I don't know, had a bug in your game, for example, something didn't work well. Or if the influencer doesn't do a great job, I don't know, he was partying too much last night, or that's his like fifth integration. He's like, I'm kind of like, yeah, I'll do it, I'll get the money, but I don't really care about that game. meaning that yeah, like $2,000 are gone. So please make sure that you have an understanding of how that works. And again, coming back to your goals, if your goals are conversions, app installs, in-game engagement, growing your community on Discord or on YouTube, micro-influencers are just much better to um, to help you reach that goal if conversions is your goal. And yeah, I assume that's the goal for most of the gaming companies. So in terms of the platforms that are out there, like I was mainly focusing on like the manual process, but of course there's platforms that allow you to kind of like streamline that process. And I'm sure you've heard about like Keymailer, for example, which allows you to distribute game keys, um, or like Lurkit, which is kind of like a competitor to Keymailer. There are other platforms as well. And yeah, all of these platforms that they're like influencer marketing platforms, and they kind of help you to distribute game keys mainly. Like that was the main idea behind the product, is help you distribute game keys among a much larger pool of influencers who might or might not be potentially interested in your game. And there's not a lot of control that you have after you actually gave your key away. So influencers are not, um, they can do whatever they want with the key. They can either go ahead and stream and promote your game, or they can just take the key away and not stream. So basically, don't have a lot of control. And most of these platforms, they are also platforms where you pay per month, like it's subscription based. Um, like monetization model for them. So again, if you only need like some activation this month, but they're not interested in doing anything next month because you want to, work on your game, improve it, and then launch another like activation in 3 months, well, you'd have to be paying for that. So quick plug-in about what we do and why we are different from the rest of the market. First of all, I want to say that we're fairly new on the market. So the platform has been live since June last year. So we've been on the market for what, like eight months. Since then, we've helped over 220 companies run influencer marketing campaigns. And 80% of our revenue is actually recurring revenue, meaning revenue is coming from repeat clients. So they're coming back with larger budgets because they loved the results that they got, and they're willing to work with us going forward. So what we do is we're also an influencer marketing, but where we help gaming companies to engage micro influencers at scale, but you're only paying for those conversions. So these conversions are basically actions that are done by the community of influencers. So you kind of can look at Drobe.me as not just like a two-sided marketplace where you have like gaming companies with their goals and then influencers who can like stream the game and that's it. But on Drobe.me, you actually have like a third party is the community of those influencers. And since for the gaming companies, the most important part is not just the influencer who plays the game, but it's actually the community who uh, gets to know about the game and who wishlists the game on Steam, and at the end of the day, who purchases the game. And this is how we actually, on Drobe.me, we focus specifically on the community of influencers, meaning that influencer is only getting paid when, for example, their community member added your game to Steam wishlist, or when the community member of a particular influencer purchased your game on Steam. This is the event when the influencer is going to get paid. And these are called actions. And you can you can either go with the recommended price that we have on the platform. You can set your own price. For example, pay $1 per Steam wish list that the community of influencer will get. And you can have hundreds of influencers take part in your in promoting your campaign. And again, you're only going to be paying for the actions that their community have been doing. So it doesn't matter if you have one influencer, hundreds of influencers, your budget doesn't change. Your budget only changes based on the number of completed actions that has been done by the community members. So this is what sets us apart. We're here to change the way that influencer marketing is done and to add that data-driven aspect to it. So now you can actually take care and manage your like ROAS because you specifically know how much money are you going to be spending per wish list, how much money are you spending per each purchase, and yeah, in this case, it's basically running an affiliate marketing program with the influencers that we have on the platform. Um, yeah, so I mentioned that this is like purely performance based, and it's worth mentioning that we have direct API integration with Steam. So if your game is launched on Steam, for example, you can we can track and reward influencers whenever their community members add your game to Steam wishlist, purchase your game, or for example, play demo on Steam, or reach a certain achievement within your game to drive in-game engagement. So all of this can be automatically tracked through the Steam API. If you're a mobile gaming company, we are integrated with Apps Flyer, so we can also track all of the events that you want to track and reward influencers for. And there's like over 20 different actions already like automated on our platform. So feel free to check it out. I'm going to skip the video part since we don't have that much time. And I know this is the last session, so I just want to make sure we have at least like 5-10 minutes for the Q&A. We're also going to be integrating AI Copilot, but again, this is something that I would like to probably skip. Yeah, and maybe a last point in terms of like the future of influencer marketing and where this is all heading to. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you're all familiar that these are not the best times in the gaming industry, with all those like layoffs and games being pushed back, like with the releases. So companies are becoming more cost efficient and they're looking for ways to actually pay only for the results. And this is where like performance marketing kicks in. And this is also relevant for influencer marketing. So we're kind of like seeing this convergence of influencer and performance marketing aspects. And this is like why Job.me is so popular among the gaming companies right now when they're looking for influencer marketing tools. Then there's this trend of UGC content, and I'm not going to stop on that a lot, but it's been proven that content that has been created by players or influencers, like organic content, just converts much better than those like prefabricated videos that are done by I don't know, filming companies. So this, and also Gen AI, obviously this is playing an important role. Not yet, but I think this Gen AI is gonna also add a lot of nuances to influencer marketing because there's already been these like virtual influencers, not real persons, who also have their social media accounts and also have their social followers. So that's kind of like entertaining. And since performance is super important, micro influencers are also going to get more attention from the brands because this is just like a much more effective channel to get those conversions and to get the performance that gaming companies are looking for. So I'm going to stop there and feel free to test out Job.me. The minimum budget to start off your campaign is only $500. It's self-serve. So you'd be able to kind of like sign up, test it out yourself, see it out yourself without paying any money upfront. We don't have like any subscriptions. We take a commission from the budget, from your marketing budget. So it's pay per use. We try to be in line with the existing circumstances in the market. So happy to answer any of your questions. I think we still have another 10 minutes or so. So I'm going to wrap it up there.
Yes, thank you, Dmitry, uh, or Dmitro.
Yes,
um,
Mitro.
uh, I I would like to ask you some questions. For example, are there specific types of gaming content or genres that tend to perform better with micro-influencer marketing?
I'd say there are some games that are just more tailored for being promoted by influencers or let's say Twitch streamers because they, for example, they can require some like multiplayer games, for example, where influencer can bring their community members to a dedicated server and they can play together. Um, but I don't think there's like any specific genre there's that is more tailored for influencer marketing. Because again, like they're influencers who've been streaming and playing over 300 games, so various genres completely. So in short, no. There are just some games that are more like crafted to be more engaging for, let's say, like Twitch streams. And some of the games actually use that in their like marketing strategy as well. They do it while they think about that while building the game. So they integrate some of the features that will allow that like engagement between the influencer and their community to happen on the live stream. But no, there's no like genres that are more popular or not.
Thank you. And another question. Um, how do you help brands to measure the success of micro-influencer campaigns in terms of both engagement and conversions?
I mean, our platform is all about conversions. So we have an analytics page where you can basically see how many people visited your campaign, what was the conversion, for example, into Steam wishlist, and you can see how many people actually, added your game to Steam wishlist, how many people purchased that game, which influencer has brought in um, more players to support your game. So if you go to drop.me, sign up, we have like a mock-up campaign, and you're able without even creating your own campaign, you're able to see like all the analytics that we provide. Also, you can export it in a CSV file in case you need it for your like future use. So we do have all these conversion metrics built in the platform. We're actually also able to track organic content that is being created by influencers. So the content, for example, if they're streaming your game they created a content on TikTok, and by using the hashtag that you provided on the platform, we're actually able to find that content and provide you all the statistics on how many people watch that TikTok post or YouTube video. So that's also something that is already pre-built into Drop.me.
Hmm. Thank you very much. And what about uh, how would you advise, or how can you help um, to overcome uh, this most common challenges in micro influencer like marketing campaign?
Is there like any specific challenges that are mentioned? Because there's a lot
What
of them.
are what are the most common ones?
What are the most common challenges while engaging micro-influencers?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Um, yes. So I'd say since micro-influencers are not like sometimes you can be the first brand or the first company that they're promoting. Some of them are not, they don't even understand what would be the best way to promote your game. So sometimes you can actually end up with a content that is not on par what you expected. So in order to mitigate that, we recommend like actually provide like more detailed description on what are your expectations, because sometimes again it's not that the influencer doesn't want to do a good job, they just don't understand how to do that. But also on our platform you can see like rankings of the influencers, so you can see like whether they have been doing a good job while creating content or whether they like other previous companies ranked them and they didn't do like a perfect job. So you can also like filter by that. Yeah, I'd say this is important factor, but there's a lot of like other challenges, but it's just going to take a lot of time to go into all of them. I touched base on them like before the presentation.
Um, Another question: is it better? Would you advise to use micro influencers to promote indie games? And you mentioned in your speech nano influencers. Perhaps for starting, would they be useful for like starting indie companies?
Oh yes, like indie games. They've been 60% of our clients are actually indie gaming companies, and I think this is like a perfect match where you have like indie gaming companies on one end and like nano or micro influencers on the other hand. Um, Again, because the influencers that we work with, they're like variety streamers and they're specifically looking for these like new titles or unseen titles that they can bring to their community and tell them like, oh, look, guys, I found this amazing game. You know, let's help these guys out because I like this game. And it's important to note that influencers on our platform, they can only promote up to 6 games simultaneously. So they're also very picky in terms of which game that they're actually going to be promoting to their community. And for them, the most important value or asset that they have is their community. So they won't going to be promoting a game that they think is not a good fit for them and their community. And on our platform, it's kind of like Tinder because first the influencer has to like your game and apply to your campaign. And then you as a company, you have a chance to either accept the influencer or decline the influencer. So it has to be like a mutual fit. And yes, indie games are super popular among micro or non-influencers. They're looking for those opportunities.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, if is there anything you would advise to developers in starting with their work with micro influencers, with influencers altogether, besides, of course, turning to experts like experts from DropMe for advice, qualified help, but perhaps what should they keep, what developers should keep in mind when thinking or starting work with influencers, the main principles.
Um, it's kind of going to be a generic advice, but this is something that I've encountered a lot while speaking with companies. Like, think where influence and marketing stands along other marketing engagements or activities that you intend on doing. So don't treat influencer marketing as uh, black and white solution that influencer marketing should probably be a part. Whether it's a major part or a minor part, it's up for you to decide based on the game and the platform and so on. But just make sure to have a plan and specific goals that you're trying to achieve by running influencer marketing campaign. And this will help you to streamline the process, understand um, which path to take and how to better approach it. And yes, of course, feel free to reach out. And like our team is happy to help as well and to give some guidance on that too.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your speech. It's very interesting, and I'm sure a lot of people will be keeping in mind that they can reach you out, and me personally as well
Mhm.
will reach you up for future cooperation, hopefully. And thank you for the speech, and thank you for to everyone who's still watching us. For in this hall for today, we're over, and as you see, we had headliner at the end as usually, uh, and thank you everyone for supporting Games Gathering. It's important for Ukrainian game industry, and Slava to Ukraine.
Героям слава. Дякую всім. Thank you very much for watching this and let's stay safe and have a great rest of the day. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you. Goodbye and